The O-Dog saying in the past segment, getting a little bit concerned about Fred VanVleet, and Feschuk saying, no guy, no concern whatsoever. Is that how I'm reading your reaction there, Dave? You feel good about Fred VanVleet re-signing here in Toronto, or what?
Well, look, I mean, I guess if he was to receive an offer that would blow away any reasonable measure of what he's worth by a competing team, then I guess anything's possible. It's free agency, but it is also COVID free agency. So I think the likelihood of a way above market offer that would steal Fred VanVleet away is probably a little less in these conditions.
What would that number be, Dave? Brian in the past has brought up Detroit with his old coach there, Dwayne Casey, and they need to put, they need to have, I was going to say butts in the seats, but that ain't going to happen probably this year. But just gather some overall interest in Detroit with the Pistons. Like, what would that number be for Toronto to say, no way, we're not going there?
Well, it's pretty complicated to say. I mean, I don't know the number, to be honest with you, exactly to the dollar. But I mean, if you're going, beyond 20 million into edging toward max range, I don't think that's something they're going to entertain. But Masai Ujiri, I mean, has built this team around Fred VanVleet and players like him, right? Unplucked gems that they have found. This guy in particular, an undrafted guy that they have helped build into what he is. An essential part of a really good team. And I just think the cautionary tales of teams that have allowed players like Fred VanVleet to leave. I look at Milwaukee. They allowed Malcolm Brogdon to walk to Indiana, and they regretted it from the moment it happened because they weren't as good a team. And Giannis is now, in this limbo of will he re-sign and will he not? And Masai Ujiri realizes you can't let stuff like that happen because it can decimate your team.
I just find the guy that has a chip on his shoulder like that, he's telling his agent, I'm getting the most money possible. I don't care if it's $100,000 more than another team. Undrafted, blah, 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 it's my time. Yeah. Just like the defenseman in Boston with the Bruins.
He might be, but maybe the Raptors are the ones that are going to offer the most. That still is possible. Here's longtime NBA insider reporter. You see him on Around the Horn, host of the starting lineup on SiriusXM. Here's Frank Isola. Thank you for doing this, Frank. We're looking forward to free agency opening up in the NBA, and we got a big one up here in Toronto and Fred VanVleet. What's your understanding of his marketplace, and how do you see it playing out with Fred?
No, I think you guys are right. I mean, if I'm Fred VanVleet, a lot of people think you're the number one free agent right now in the free agent class, and you have to strike while the iron is hot. And, if he did I would love to see him stay in Toronto. But if he gets a much better offer someplace else, can you really blame him? It might not be the best thing for him basketball-wise, but financially it would be. And he still has a championship, so he accomplished a lot up in Toronto. I hope he stays, but, you never know, like, what kind of offers he may get. Like, people have talked about the Knicks. My only thing would be if he went on the Knicks, he would be the Knicks' best player. And can you really win if your best player is undersized? If you think about their championship team, where would you rank Fred? He was the fourth best player, maybe? Kawhi, Kyle Lowry, Siakam, then maybe him?
Yep.
Hey, listen, I love him as a player. I'm just saying if you went to the Knicks, he's their best player. Where's that really going to get you? When your best player, you might be paying him between $80 and $100 million, and he's undersized.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, although I think the teams that we're generally talking about here with big a lot of money, like New York, like maybe Detroit, maybe Charlotte, that might apply with Fred. I mean, VanVleet might show up and certainly have the most pedigree in terms of winning, in terms of ability on both sides of the court. I think the concern, it's a weird kind of mentality up here in Toronto, as I'm sure you can understand, Frank, because people have the utmost, understanding and acceptance of the fact that Masai Ujiri knows what he's doing, and everyone believes in Masai, as they should believe in Masai. But you also look at a possible road here to play the role of pessimist here, where Fred VanVleet takes a big ticket and goes somewhere else. Serge Ibaka takes a ticket, goes somewhere else. Marc Gasol's not coming back. Kyle Lowry's 35. Terrence Davis, I kind of feel like they're probably going to end up cutting. And we're going to look at a team all of a sudden when the smoke clears, and we're going to say, what do we got here? What happened to the Raps, where they were championship team and second overall based on win percentages, and now a bunch of the pieces that they had are either gone or kind of that much older.
You know what? I'm supposed to be the pessimistic one. I'm from New York. I'm supposed to be miserable and come up with all the nuclear scenarios. But I think what you're saying is absolutely right, and that could certainly play out. And if that happens, if you were Toronto, I mean, you love Kyle Lowry, and he basically is the heart and soul of that team. He's the leader on that team, but he would have a lot of value around the league. There's a lot of teams that would love to have Kyle Lowry, who could, he comes. I mean, what about if he went home to his hometown of Philadelphia? He'd be perfect there for that team. So if all those things, like you said, play out, it could be an interesting couple of days. Because really, when you think about what's going to happen next week, the NBA will be open for business for a couple of days, so trades could start. Then you'll have the draft. Then you'll have free agency. So it's going to be a feeding frenzy for a few days here with a lot of moves that are going to happen. And Toronto is certainly in the mix with it. Something still tells me that Fred VanVleet will be back in Toronto. And like I said, I hope that happens. They were the ones that discovered him. They're the ones that developed him. He's done right by them. They've done right by him, and he's been a champion there.